Dub, and tonight we got a special treat for you guys. Friend of the show, Bryan Matthews, comes on and join us from auburnsports.com, and we're going to discuss the latest surrounding the football program. And we're going to talk about some of the additions we got in recruiting as well as other news. So bring your questions, bring your excitement, and get ready because we are entering the war room.
You are now listening to the War Report. Wednesday night War Room. Ike Jones, B. Will, C. Doe, Mike G. Let's go!
War Eagle, everyone. Happy Hump Day. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to the Wednesday Night War Room. Guys, you know the drill. If you're the uninitiated and you're not sure what to do, please smash that like button. Drop a War Eagle in the comment section. If you are new to the War Report and you're watching us live for the first time, please be sure to drop your city and state. We want to hear from you guys. And please be sure to share our content and our video. You know what to do. If you're on social media, please drop the hashtag Get Your Weight Up. That will help us out a ton, actually. So please be sure to do that. And we got some other news on the way. Mike G, you got anything for us, bro?
Oh, man. Happy Hump Day, everybody. We got Bryan Matthews in the house from auburnsports.com, ready to talk some recruiting. But first, you've heard me say it a million times. I'm going to say it again. Become an insider. $5.99 a month will get you there. We have some exciting content coming for you guys in the next coming weeks. A lot of that will be insider only, so make sure that you snatch up that insider membership so that you can get access to everything that we're going to be doing, including our very own exclusive game day experience, where we will be live with you pregame, halftime, and postgame, talking about what we love and what we hate about what we're seeing on Saturdays. Our merch store is live. You can find this link in the About section of our YouTube channel. We are wearing it. You should wear it. I appreciate all our subs who have been buying the merch and posting pictures on social media. We appreciate the pub. We like when you guys wear our stuff and represent us in these streets. So thank you, everybody who's doing that. That's a great way to support our content. We are officially partnered with the Lee County Humane Society. A big shout out to everybody who has been sending me well wishes for my dog, Abby. She is on the mend. We got some more positive news this week, and I'm hoping that she's going to make a full recovery. We fired the last vet because they pretty much told me she was going to die. So this new vet told me, gave me opposite news and some encouraging things and got her on some better things that are helping her. So I appreciate all the well wishes. Rescue animals mean so much to a lot of people. And this is a good that we've chosen to put back in the world, is to help the Lee County Humane Society rescue animals and then pair them with good homes so that someone else can find their Abby. Now that's Ike's dog, Milo, in this picture. I know he loves his dog a lot. He's not here with us tonight, but he can tell you that the love that you can get from a rescue animal is like no other. So we appreciate everybody who goes and donates there. And also, as a special thank you, now we've talked about it, we are giving away tickets to the first game of the season against Akron. If you donate to our GoFundMe between now and the weekend tailgate on Sunday, you will get another entry into that raffle to win tickets to the Akron game. So you just have to go to our GoFundMe. We know who you are, you guys that normally donate any amount. There's no minimum, just anything you can give will enter you again into that raffle. We're going to pull that on the 14th of August. We're going to pull on that raffle to see who wins those tickets so you guys can have time to adequately plan if you don't live in and around the Auburn area, but we're looking forward to giving that away to you. Speaking of giveaways, tonight we're giving away a Watch the Film t-shirt. Caesar, I was real jealous seeing Caesar wear his, so I ordered mine and I will be wearing it hopefully next week. But this is in the merch store. We're going to give one away tonight. So to enter this, all you have to do is drop a hashtag, get your weight up, just as is spelt on screen, to enter this raffle, and we will draw at the 1 hour mark and send that out. If you don't know, ask somebody in the comments. They've been getting their winners merch, but you have to be present at the end to win. So if you are watching the stream on delay at the hour mark, make sure you are caught up so that you can claim your prize and get your Watch the Film t-shirt. During the season, we actually have a Monday film review that we're going to be bringing you guys with Ike and possibly some former players like we've been doing the Chop It Ups, but that will be insider only. So make sure you get that insider membership so you can have access to that Monday film review. We're going to be chopping up what we see on Saturdays and seeing what we can look forward to the following Saturday. It's going to be a lot of fun during the season with the film reviews.
Definitely make sure you get that access. And we have access to a great resource tonight in Bryan Matthews.
Yeah.
Welcome, sir. How are you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great. It's great to be on the War Report. So excited to get going. I loved y'all's introductions and the opening. That was great stuff.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. We try. We try. I have to admit, we do try. Listen, man, how's it been so far, man? Has it been kind of quiet this time of year for you guys as you're gearing up for the season, or is it pretty steady for you?
Well, June was kind of crazy. You had that 15-month dead period. It sort of opened up and just blew up with a number of visits, prospects coming in. But, from a news situation, not been extremely busy. There hasn't been a whole bunch of recruiting news until the last couple of days. And they've been busy in the transfer portal, I'd say, overall. And not a lot of team news right now. The team's just doing their own sort of captain's practices, player-led practices and stuff and working out. But it'll really start going once August 1st hits and practice starts.
Well, you already mentioned it, man. Let's not waste any more time. Let's talk about it. We got a lot of recruiting information to talk about, starting with a commitment that happened today. Auburn gets tight end Micah Riley Ducker. He commits 4-star tight end, according to auburnsports.com, from Bellevue, Nebraska. 6'6" kid, big kid, 235 pounds, and we earned his commitment over the likes of Iowa, Iowa State, and Illinois. I believe those are some of the biggest competitors. I'm thinking Illinois and Iowa, some of the two bigger ones. But we managed to get him to commit to us just this evening, and this makes this kid I think this is the fifth recruit of our the fifth kid that committed to us. So I want to know from you. What is Auburn getting? I watched some film of them, some highlight videos, but they are just highlight videos. So by your own estimation and covering this kid, what is Auburn getting from this guy? Because after next season, we're returning Tyler Fromm, Brandon Frazier, Luke Dill, Landon King. Those are some young guys. 3 of those guys will be upperclassmen going into next season. So tight end could be a position of need, definitely, and this guy would fill that need. So what are we getting in this kid?
Well, watch the film, right? I think when you do watch the film, you're going to see a guy who's pretty athletic, got really good hands, and plays physical. He's 6'6", 235 now. I think he's going to be 255, 260 by the time he hits his second year at Auburn, probably. And I think he's a guy that if you're running a system, which I think Auburn will, where they feature the tight end, they want a guy that can be on the field for most of the snaps, whether you run the ball, passing. I think he's that guy. I think he can be the complete tight end. I think he has all the attributes, and I love how physical he plays, even though when you look at him, he's not real beefy yet. He's got the length, he's got the frame for it, but he's still got to bulk up a little bit. So I really like that about him when you project to what he can be here in a couple of years.
Listen, Bryan, so this is our first recruit outside of the Southeast.
That's right.
Now, we make a big deal about how our last coach didn't seem to leave the Southeast a whole lot for recruiting. And we talked to our athletic director about giving this new coach the resources to expand our recruiting footprint, to try to go get 4-star talent that maybe you're not competing with Alabama and Georgia and Clemson for, but, can be just as effective. Can you talk about the significance of landing a kid so far out of our normal recruiting footprint?
I think it's very significant. I think that's one of the things I'm going to write about on Monday when I do my little column. And the reason I think it's significant, thank you, is because it is outside the region, and this is not a place where Auburn normally goes and gets recruits, Nebraska. And if you look at Auburn's recruiting before Bryan Harsin, they did stick to Georgia, Florida, Alabama, mostly in the surrounding states. That's where Auburn's had its most success. That's where Auburn's got its best players. but they were getting their tails whipped by Clemson, Georgia, LSU, Alabama, Florida State, etc. So if that's going to happen, or if that's going to, at least for now, right? If that's still happening, if you want to go get good players, would you rather take an average player from Georgia or go maybe to California or Nebraska, or, they had a guy from Queens come in, a defensive tackle, who eventually chose Penn State, but still Auburn was second or third on his list. Or would you rather go get a kid that could be a potential All-SEC player, even if he is from, somewhere out of that region? I think that's what the staff is doing to start out with. And as they establish the program, as they start producing more NFL players, start having more success on the field, if that does happen, then they can go back into those areas and start competing a little bit better head-to-head with those top schools right now. Not to say that Auburn's abandoned Alabama or Georgia. I just think for the top kids, especially guys that don't have those relationships with, like, say, a Nick Saban or Kirby Smart might have a 2 or 3 year relationship with the 2022 kid from Georgia or Alabama right now. Bryan Harsin doesn't have that. So for the first year or two, I think they really have to put a big emphasis on national recruiting.
Go ahead, Mike.
So there's not a whole lot on tape in terms of tight end usage at Auburn. So what did we sell this kid? I mean, are we showing him tapes of tight end usage at Boise? What's our staff saying to a tight end that says Auburn is the place for you?
Well, I think you can double them up on that. You can show him Boise, and Bryan Harsin did feature the tight end a lot in his offense. And then you can show him Mike Bobo. He's used the tight end a lot in a similar way as Harsin throughout his career. And, they brought Micah in, I guess it was the 3rd week in June for an official visit. So they got to sit him down and show him exactly what they've done in the past and what their plans were for him in this offense, and how we would fit and what they want to do. And, I do think when you look at Auburn this season, if you look at the skill position, obviously Tank is the best player on the team. But after that, offensively, the tight ends might be, the best opportunities to make plays, to make, things happen in the receiving game a lot of times, while the inexperienced receivers come along. So I think this is an offense they're going to build around good tight ends, and I think he's a good start. And the other thing I will add, the teams Iowa State, and Illinois is not going to excite a lot of people. And I think this has been talked about by a lot of people, but worth mentioning again is Iowa has done a great job recruiting and developing tight ends for it seems like decades now, and they've got a number of former hot guys in the NFL right now. So if there's a kid that Iowa is very interested in and recruits hard, he's probably a pretty good tight end.
That's good.
Yeah, and I think Illinois had what was the guy who coached Arkansas? They got him out of Wisconsin.
Brett Bielema.
Brett Bielema. I mean, he featured a tight end. So these are guys who have a history with tight ends. So for Auburn to get him over those guys is saying a lot. What do you think in terms of realistically? We know that we can, winning games will help in terms of recruiting, but we talked to another guy on a show we did several weeks ago about what recruits need to see, right? And gone are the days where you can just tell a kid anything and not show and prove on the field. If I'm a recruit, if I'm a tight end specifically, I need to see tight ends getting the ball, or at least an attempt at the offense to try to, right? So in terms of featuring a tight end moving forward and getting kids like the one we just got today, realistically, what does Bobo and Harsin need to do in terms of creating opportunities for tight ends, in your opinion?
Well, I think number one, they need to start throwing to the tight end, and not just, simple little routes, but stretching the field with him a little bit. And I think we're going to see, because Auburn's got a pretty deep tight end room, that we're going to see more than one on the field at times, and use them in different ways. So I think you'll see the versatility of what Auburn has in the tight end room this season. And I think going forward, as Micah gets here and they start developing like a Brandon Frazier, who I think eventually, not quite yet, but eventually can be that complete 3-4 down tight end type guy. So I think as those guys come along, you'll see Auburn have those potential NFL tight ends that'll attract other highly rated guys. And the other thing I would talk about as far as recruiting, what they need to show this season, and I do think it's important early on, especially, they need to win, number one, but they also need to be competitive against the bigger teams, right? You don't need Georgia to come into Jordan-Hare Stadium and just whip Auburn up and down the field and own the line of scrimmage like they did a year ago and like they've done many, many times in the last decade or so. You don't need to go down to LSU and just lay an egg. I know Auburn hasn't won there in 22 years, so it's not reasonable necessarily to expect Auburn to break that in the first season of Harsin. Maybe something happens crazy, but you want to be competitive in those games and not look like you're outmanned.
Gotcha. B, you got any questions, bro?
I was actually going to jump out here. And right before we went on, I jumped on our Twitter account to say that I thought that he was not picking Auburn off of no intel, because we don't do recruiting intel, but the fact that we were the rightmost hat out of 4 and that nobody ever picks the hat furthest away from them. But he broke the rule and he picked the hat furthest away. So I had to own up to that incorrect prediction, but that was out the gate. But aside from what you've already said, we know Harsin, their expertise, like you've already said, they don't have connections down here yet. But is this perhaps, outside of the offense being what they favor tight ends with their offense, both Bobo and Harsin, is it perhaps some of Harsin's expertise in the region? Was it, some of his old connections or some of the staff that he has here now? Is it him reaching back to the home country to grab some guys from out of the Southeast?
I think you'll see that. I don't know if I don't know if he had a previous relationship with Mike or not, or Brad Bedell, the tight end coach who was the primary recruiter for him, did beforehand. But I think their connections to that area of the country, and then they got guys like Bobo and Zach and Carnell, Will, that all have connections in the Southeast, of course. But a lot of those guys have those West Coast, Midwest type connections too, which I think they will use. And the name escapes me, but they had a kid from Portland, several kids from Oregon and Washington come down for official visits. And
the receiver was one of them, I think.
Yeah, the receiver from Portland was the one I was thinking of, whose name escapes me at the moment. But he's a kid that left Auburn. It seems like Auburn's in a really good place for him, after that official visit. So I think you're going to see Auburn land several of these out of the area, out of their normal recruiting states here in the coming weeks and months.
That kid concerns me now that name, image, and likeness has been passed. And I think I heard about a kid who's now making 6 figures because of his deal with Nike. I wonder, can we steal kids, big recruits out of that area? Clemens, I think Jason Hill just comment on his name. Like, does that concern you, how that can shift a recruiting battle based on the possibility of name, image, and likeness, in your opinion?
Not a lot. Now, I think this first year is going to be kind of weird, right? There's going to be some surprises, and, maybe one school can do one thing or one conference can do another, and I think eventually everybody will figure it out and it'll be more even across states and across conferences and such. But I think overall, the same schools are going to be able to compete just as well as they have before, right? Whether that's money over the table or from some other areas that it's always been. I don't know if that happens or not, but if it does, this doesn't really change it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
listen, Miami has a gym owner that is giving every single player $500 a month out the gate. If you are on the roster, you are getting $500 a month from this gym owner. Now, I'm thinking about my time at Auburn, and the businesses have changed, but some of the names are the same. And I couldn't help but think, if this was in my time, Brian, we joked about this. Every player would have been an official sponsor of Colonial Bank, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yellowwood. Yellowwood, right? Like, we all know the names. So this. I will talk. I'm sure we're going to talk about it later, but this is something to keep an eye on, because now kids have this extra calculus that they're trying to do in determining where to go, because it's not just about who gives me the best opportunity to make it to the league. It's which area has crazy donors that will sponsor us to essentially not do much.
True. And, there may be, I think there's already in some states or areas rules about boosters to a school not being allowed to do an NIL deal. Whether that's going to be legal or not, I don't know. But I think that's something that's going to work out. But yeah, I just have a feeling that I think this is really important for the kids, right? They should have had this 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And as we've seen it, over the past week you're seeing all these great deals. You're wondering why is this such a big deal? Why did we have to go to the Congress and testify against it? Why do we have to fight this, in the courts for years and decades? And, what's wrong with these kids getting what they're due, right? So I don't think it's necessarily going to affect schools' ability to recruit and schools' ability to build rosters to a high degree, make a big difference. I think the changes to the transfer portal and the one-time transfer rule has had a much bigger impact on actually, building rosters and playing the game and competing each week.
Well, good deal. Well, listen, we've talked about Michael Riley Ducker. I'm excited about the potential and the ceiling this kid brings with him to the Plains, and hopefully he's a good one for us. However, the day before, we had our first commitment since February, ending like a 4-month drought recruiting wise for this recruiting class. According to Cole's Kicking Camp, the number 1 place kicker in the 2022 class, Alex McPherson, actually committed out of Fort Payne, Alabama. And I think he had some SEC offers as well. But he commits to the good guys, and he's the first commitment since Powell Gordon, I think, of Auburn High.
That's right.
So up until this point, there were a bunch of Auburn fans ready to wave the white flag and were panicking. And after this commitment today, and I just checked, I don't know if it's updated, but Auburn currently, and I know it's July 7th, but Auburn currently has the 80th recruiting class in college football. So what inquiring minds want to know, Bryan?
Yes.
Is it time to just bang on the panic button or gently press it? What say you?
If I was an Auburn fan right now, I would tear my clothes off and run outside and scream because I'm so panicked about it.
Go streaking? Okay. All right.
Yeah, there you go. I think there was cause for concern. I'm glad this is Wednesday, not Monday. I'm on your show, right? Because they finally have broken that streak and got going here. And, I think Michael Riley Ducker is a big pickup and he helps out a lot. But sure, it would be stupid of me to come on here and say there's not reasons for concern. And it hasn't gone as well as you want it to be as far as getting the commitments. What did go well, though, is getting those kids in for visits. They got a number of really good players in for unofficial and official visits, including kids in the 2023 and 24 classes, which is really important for these guys to start building those relationships. So from that point, and the camps too, I think things went really well in June. They just have not quite got the payoff for that yet. So it's worth being concerned about it, but it's also, as a guy who's covered recruiting for a couple of decades now, and followed it for even longer, way back when you called the 900 numbers and did all that crazy stuff. There are just a couple magazines out there and radio shows before YouTube and stuff existed. I would say, you never know what's going to happen. You can always have a week where you get like 3 or 4 or 5 commitments and get on a run and things suddenly start looking rosy where a week before it didn't. And you can already see that happening this week, and there's some guys like Damari Alston, the running back from Woodward Academy, is a guy to keep a close eye on. He's a top target. He's a good 4-star. I'm not sure if he's a high 4-star or mid 4-star, but he's a good tailback with a lot of quality offers. That would be a great pickup for Auburn, I think. And then Demetric Robinson is another guy who's not a recruit necessarily, but is a guy to keep an eye on here. The former 5-star was at California, then I think Georgia, is now looking to transfer for 1 more year, and Auburn could be his landing spot. So could be some more information coming this week or early next week.
Caden Story as well.
Yeah.
I think he's set to commit August 1st, I believe.
Yep.
Okay.
Right. Hey, listen, you touched on Demetric Robinson. Is this a recruiting priority for this staff? I'm in the camp that believes it's not time to hit the panic button at receiver. But again, fan chatter is that we need to go out and get somebody in the portal to get some experience because we're only returning like 15% of our yardage from last year. So there is not a lot. And that's the least amount I think that we've returned in the last 10 years.
I was in your same camp before spring practice. And then sort of the feedback we got through the staff was that that was an area that they were really sort of disappointed in, I guess is the word. Maybe that's a little bit too harsh, but the area that needed the most work coming out of spring was that receiver position. And they thought maybe having a veteran guy who had been in a system more similar to what they want to do would be helpful. I think that position, more so than any other position on the team, is making the most adjustments from the Malzahn offense to what Harsin wants to do. I just think it was really simple for them before, and it's much more sophisticated now. They have to make many more decisions at the line of scrimmage and pre-snap, maybe even post-snap. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Than they did before. So I think that is an area they'd like to help. And I don't know how much Demetric Robinson can help, but he does have potential explosive ability. He certainly didn't get it done his last year at Georgia. I did some check-in. I talked to some folks over there, and they said he's not like a bad kid or anything, not a troublemaker. He just had a tough spring, got passed by some freshmen during spring practice. And, he needed to be a little bit more physical in the running game, I think, for them. So maybe that's an area he can improve on for Auburn. I don't know. But, sometimes when you fail and this is your last shot, and you have expectations and goals to play on the next level, that could be a high motivational factor. So he's not a guy I would say nailed it. This guy's going to kick butt, but he's also not a guy I would say that, this kid has no chance. I'd say, let's see what he can do. Maybe he can turn things around and really help out Auburn a lot.
We got a question here from Gregory Lawrence, and he's asking, we already mentioned DeMar Alston. His question is, will we actually take 2 running backs? And I know there's another 3-star kid that we're actually looking at. I think he's in this state. Yep. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think it's Quinshawn Judkins. I'm not sure how I pronounce his first name. He's from Pike Road, Alabama, which is just east of Montgomery, not far at all from Auburn. I think he came in for an unofficial visit, if I remember, early in June. Maybe mid-June. And I do think that there's a good possibility Auburn may try to roll out a couple running backs in this class. I think they're really high on Jarquez Hunter. You lose Shivers after this year. Tank is going to be gone after his junior year. Right. So it might be a good idea to try to take 2, if you can get 2 good ones or one good one and one with the potential to be a really good one. You go ahead and do that now, and then maybe try to go for that home run kid in the 2023 class when Tank is a junior and they're seeing all the things he's capable of doing in this offense.
Bryan, I want to ask a question while we're on running backs. So the question about whether we take 2 running backs, and we know that there's some high profile targets in there, but in terms of what we have in front of us now, are you getting a sense that Jarquez Hunter is primed to take the number 2 spot from Shaun Shivers?
That's an interesting question because I've sort of been on Shivers his whole career, but as I've watched him develop and I watched him this spring, I think number one, he fits this offense perfectly because Shivers is not what I thought he was coming out of high school. I thought he was the quick scat back, put him in space, make people miss guy. He's not. He's a power back all the way, right? Mm-hmm. And this offense, I think, fits him, fits his cut and go and try to run over that linebacker or safety that's twice his size, but he still does it anyway. So I think he's a good fitness offense. So I would expect maybe him to have a pretty good year. But I am really high on Jarquez Hunter. I think the coaching staff and Carnell is really high on him too. So I think he's going to win the number 3 job and push Shivers. But I'm not ready to say he's going to beat out Shivers because I'm high on Shivers and what he could do as a senior in this offense.
Sidebar, before we get to the midway point, how close were we to actually losing Shivers? Because there was rumors about him potentially hitting the portal during all of this transition. Was there any substance to that rumor months ago? Because it seems like he bought in fairly quick once the staff got here. But was he in any doubt at one point in time?
That is something I don't have a good answer for. I've not talked to Shaun about that, so I don't know what he was thinking or if he was looking to leave. I think had it been a different situation, had those 2 guys not left the program and transferred away, had Gus not, been fired and brought in Harsin, maybe it would have been time for him to move on, right? Because he was probably going to get passed by those guys. But I think this offense and the way it's formulated sort of fits him really good. And I think all things being equal, he wanted to stay at Auburn. I think he loves it here. So I think it's worked out best for him in Auburn.
Definitely. Well, we got a few more questions. We see you guys' comments, and we'll definitely try to address those as we talk a little bit more recruiting. But we got some announcements and some things we want you guys to do. Please be sure to share this video and definitely drop the hashtag Get Your Weight Up if you're sharing it on social media. Please be sure to do that. It helps us out a ton. And please be nice and hit the like button. Do those things. That helps us out too. Help us with that old algorithm there. Mike G, talk to us about what we got coming up, sir.
Again, thank you everybody for joining us on a Wednesday hump day. Listen, become an insider. We are intensely and massively excited about all the content that we will be bringing you guys in the fall. A lot of that content will be insider exclusive, so you want to make sure you grab that membership now so that you can get access to that content. Of course, we love our supporters too, but insider is the top tier there. We are officially partnered with the Lee County Humane Society. I've talked this to death. I won't stop talking about it because I love dogs and we want to help the Lee County Humane Society save all the dogs, every single one. I want everyone to look at this graphic right now. Look into that puppy's eyes. You can save him. And we are going to save as many as possible before the end of the year. It costs them $19 a day to take care of animals in their care that stay on average of 30 or 45 days before they can find them a good home. So as a thank you to everyone who donates to the Lee County Humane Society and the War Report, we are going to give you another entry into our raffle for 2 tickets to the Akron game, the first game of the season. So you can be there live to get the first glimpse of the Bryan Harsin era and Jordan era compliments of the War Report. So if you sign up as an insider, you get 3 free entries. And if you do this, you will get another entry. So we appreciate everybody. I am tracking that. So I got all my insiders entered into the raffle already. And then we will pull on August 14th to see who wins that and give you guys some time to plan. And just in case you live outside the area and you need to make it to the game. Our merch store is live, and you can find this link as well as the GoFundMe in the About section of our YouTube channel. Get your War Report gear. And if you missed it at the top of the broadcast, we are giving away a Watch the Film t-shirt. And this is to celebrate our Watch the Film session we're going to do during the season on Mondays. This is going to be really, really exciting, guys. You don't want to miss it. You can wear your t-shirt while you watch it. So just hashtag Get Your Weight Up in the comments. Get your Urban Dictionary out. It's spelled here for you. Hashtag Get Your Weight Up to enter. We have probably the most entries we've ever had. I've got 90 entries here, Caesar, which is not quite 50%, but I got 90 entries here. I want to see.
It used to take us 2 live shows to get that many, man. Y'all showing out tonight for now, Bryan Matthews.
We're pulling at the 1 hour mark, but you have to be here to win. You have to be here to win. So if you turned your app off and then turned it back on for some reason and you are watching on a delay, make sure you catch up before the 1 hour mark, because being on a delay is no excuse. And we will draw again. And it happened to somebody. And I was so sad, but we did it and we moved on and somebody won it. So don't let it be you.
Yeah. So let's get back to some of these questions, man. We have a great resource with us tonight in Bryan Matthews. Again, thanks again for taking time out of your schedule to join us and hang out with the War Report family. Bryan Matthews, as far as I'm concerned, is an adopted member of our family. So we're going to use you while you're here, sir. We've been seeing, and shout out to one of our family members, James Coleman, War Eagle. He has a question, and people have been asking us about this kid. I don't know if there's any substance to this at all, but people want to know about the left tackle who entered the portal out of LSU. Who it was also rumored that that TJ Finley was trying his hardest to try to bring him to Auburn as well. What's the deal with this story? Is there any substance to this, or what's going on?
Yeah, Dare Rosenthal. You know, when he first jumped in the portal and he was going to be LSU's starting left tackle, he ran into some off the field issues there. I don't know all the specifics. If it's just weed related or whatever, I say who cares? You know, why are we even testing these kids for that anymore? But that's just my opinion.
The facts,
right? Yeah. But yeah, I think Auburn is interested, but I think Auburn, a lot of schools are doing their homework on him first. That's why you haven't really heard much at all from him. I know when he first jumped in there, a lot of guys that seem to know nationally or connections to Baylor mentioned that Baylor was the team to watch there. So maybe that is the case, but I think Auburn is showing some interest. I don't know how serious that interest is yet, but me personally, I'd be all over it as long as it's, nothing serious as far as off the field issues, involving, something other than, possibly a positive drug test or something, which again, I think it's ridiculous that the Olympics test for weed is not a performance enhancer. I think the same with college athletics. I just don't see what the big deal is. They don't test people drinking. Why test for weed? But that's just
listen, with NIL, the NCAA is running out of ridiculous reasons to suspend kids.
Yeah.
Is how it's working here. So I hope that that's one that we can check off the list as well too. I'm in your camp. If it's not, some serious team violation or it's not criminal and it's just some ridiculous rule, we'll bring this guy in. We did a breakdown on offensive line, our blue chip ratio along the offensive line. And last year, only 20% of our line were 4 or 5 stars on the roster. The schools at the top are, in the 70s in terms of their percentage of blue chips. And so bringing that kind of experience in could be massively helpful to an offensive line that has been much maligned over the last couple of years. We've had no, freshman tackles or guards recruited since 2017. There's just not a lot of development happening, and they are taking, in the court of public opinion, a lot of the blame for why our quarterback has struggled. Mm-hmm. So they definitely have had their challenges. I'm not absolving them at all, but getting an experienced left tackle in here and shifting some guys around and maybe bolstering this offensive line would definitely be a huge lift for Bryan Harsin in his first year, I think.
I'm not sure there's a position you could upgrade more on this Auburn roster than left tackle, and that's not a shot at anybody on this roster or any current left tackles. I just think that's a position that, if you look at the pass blocking there, I think not only did it struggle at that position, and right tackle too, but I think there was a lack of confidence in that position to be above average, and that lack of confidence really affected the offense altogether, especially Bo Nix, which that's probably a whole nother hour. We could talk about all that, but I'd be all over there at Rosenthal at that left tackle position if it was my decision, but I don't have all the facts about what went on at LSU.
Well, I'm pretty sure. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was going to say, if it's disciplinary, what is your sense on Bryan Harsin and bringing in kids with possible disciplinary issues in the past? I mean, because all we hear is that he's no nonsense, work hard, work. He's not here for the games. Football may be a game to us, but it's not a game to Bryan Harsin. What do you think about him going after kids like this?
Big on culture. Talks about that a lot, right? And he's tried to remake or redo Auburn's culture since he arrived and make them a little bit more blue collar, a little bit more tougher. They certainly changed the way they work out and go through winter workouts and summer workouts. And that's, I think we maybe saw a little bit of that in spring. I mean, Nick Brom's a great example of that. I thought he was actually getting some push at the line of scrimmage, which I haven't necessarily seen from him before. So I thought you saw a difference already there. So that's interesting, because if you have enough culture in your program, you can afford to take a chance on a kid, because those guys will pull him up, right? If you don't, if you've got too many of those kids, and I'm not saying that Dare is a bad kid, I don't know that, but
right.
But if you have enough of those, then it'll bring the rest of them down, right? Then it becomes an issue. So it's a balance, and I don't know where Auburn sort of stands with that or where he feels about it, but it is definitely 100% priority, because I think he's probably said the word culture 100 times in all the interviews we've had with him since he arrived on Christmas Eve, or since our first press conference on Christmas Eve, I guess I should say. So yeah, I think it's definitely something that they will really look into closely.
And it's a coin flip with these kids, because the hope is that this lights a fire under him to actually prove himself wherever he lands. Should it be Auburn, that he has a chip on his shoulder, and I'm out to prove that whatever you heard about me is not true. I'm here to work. And let's just hope that pans out, and Bryan Harsin and the staff sees that. Now, you mentioned that a potential landing spot for him being Baylor. Auburn has a guy who left the team and entered the portal just last month going to Baylor, and Hal Presley. He wasn't here very long. So He was a kind of a late addition in the recruiting class because he was committed to Baylor previously. Decommitted late October, committed early November, somewhere in there. Got to campus in June. Apparently didn't like it. Was back home. Any thoughts on what was going on there? Any intel you have on that situation?
Yeah, he was just homesick and had a girlfriend there that he wanted to get back to. I think that was it.
That happens.
Hey, we've all been there at that age, right? That may seem trivial to me now. Like, come on, dude. But
listen, bro, get your bag, man.
But I think he liked it at Auburn and everything. I think everything was fine on that end. I just think he was wanting to get closer to home and closer to that girlfriend. So,
well, I hope it works out, right?
Yeah.
Maybe she's the one, right?
For Baylor and the girl.
I certainly hope so. A lot of fans were really excited about the possibility of Hal Presley cracking the starting lineup this fall with all the things based on what you said about the wide receiver being, likely a disappointment of the spring. Now, I certainly didn't feel that way at all. I still think we are massively talented at wide receiver. We're just raw. There's not a ton of experience there. And what I'm hoping is that the system will help scheme these kids open and get them the ball, because that's something that we didn't do. You said something that was interesting earlier that I kind of want to jump back to about how of all the positions on offense, they're going through the biggest change from the last regime to the new one. And I don't know if there's a truer statement, because they're going from running either go routes or bubble screens to actually having to find holes in the zone and do some different things offensively. So, kind of moving forward here with Bryan Harsin, we're talking, a lot has been made about quarterback development, but wide receiver development has been, in my book, just as big an issue. And system has hurt everybody. I think I'm really excited to see what this new system can do if it's, prioritize, if it's actually utilizing tight ends. I would have liked to have kept Hal Presley. I was a little disappointed in that loss. Yeah. But between Capers and Canyon and Malcolm Johnson Jr. and Javarius Johnson, I just feel like we've got enough talent there to make some noise. Just my thoughts.
No, I agree with you. I like the baseline talent there, and I think especially a lot of Elijah and Xavion, and I loved Kobe Hudson coming out of high school. So I'm not going to say that he can't be a really good or great player eventually. It'll be interesting to see who really steps up there. I thought Hal Presley was a potential eventual number one receiver in this offense. Maybe not right away, but maybe after a year or two. The other thing I should have mentioned when I talked about the receiver position is it is the one that has to make the most adjustment, but it is a position that can make the most improvement over summer, because they can go out there every day with Bo Nix and TJ Finley and run routes and run the offense and catch balls and do all the things they need to do and work on those checks and all the adjustments they have to make and their alignments they have to do now. So they can make the biggest move up or jump up or improvement during the month of June and July. And so maybe, Cornelius Williams, when he goes out there August 1st, sees a group that, wow, hey, you guys put in the work over the summer. I'm really proud of you. Now let's keep moving forward.
Got a question for you, and shout out to James Barnett, because this kind of fits here for you, Bryan. Do you think the tight ends will fill in for the receivers until they get some more reps or get their confidence or feet up under them?
I do. I think they're going to feature those guys pretty early, because I think a lot of that group, I thought the Deal kid had a really good spring.
Luke Deal.
Showed that he could be a receiver, not just a blocker. I think John Samuel Shanker, watching him play baseball and football, I think he's an underrated athlete. He's better than people give him credit for, and I'm excited to see what he can do. Probably going to be your starting tight end. So, I think they'll probably be out front a little bit more and then let the receivers come along. But, I don't think that means they're going to out catch the receivers. I still think, you got to get it. You got to get to those guys. I think Elijah Kenyon, if you get the ball in his hands in space, he can make plays. He can bully a cornerback, right? We saw that in the bowl game.
For sure.
I mean, I want to see what he can do in the SEC and this season, with another year working out and some time in this new offense.
Bryan, the thing that excites me the most is that you have to account, if you're an opposing defense, you now have to account for tight ends, which probably will take the pressure off of your wide receivers, right? So I'm looking forward to seeing our offense actually spread the defense out and make them have to defend more guys than they're accustomed to. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. We have a question here from Drew Hopper. Appreciate you, man. Does recruiting rankings matter if we develop and produce on the field? We have averaged 9th in the nation the past 8 years, and that didn't work out so well. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think in Rivals it's been closer to 12 to 15 average, but I can go back and look at that. I'm going to make a lot of people angry because, yes, recruiting rankings absolutely matter. There's a reason that Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State put all these players in the NFL. It's because they sign a bunch of 5 stars and Rivals 100 and high 4-star players every single year. Sure, they develop them. Yes, that's a part of it. But, you name your 5-star. He could go to Towson State and be drafted in the NFL and be a great player, right? He's just a great player coming out of high school. So they make a huge difference. That doesn't mean that you don't need to be good at evaluating, good at developing too. But I think the most important thing that Bryan Harsin or any college coach can do is bring in talent. Talent wins you football games, first and foremost. We've seen that with Alabama. That's why they've won all these championships. Nick Saban is a really good coach, but he's a really great recruiter. So is Kirby Smart. He's not a great coach, I don't think, but he's a heck of a recruiter.
Thank you. Thank you.
He's gotten
close. You come back and
really close, right? Really close, but not quite there yet.
Bryan, BA said 3 words tonight, and you said that, and he has come alive.
I am of the mindset that when you get an inordinate amount of talent that Georgia recruits, I don't want to give anybody too many excuses. Yeah, you Bama, that was a tough loss in championship game, SEC championship, whatever. Listen, man, you got the guys. When you get the guys, I think you have to make a way to get it done. And he hadn't done that. So I'm off the Kirby train until he wins one.
1980 was a long time ago, I'm telling you.
Long
been a while.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we got to 2 at that time and had another undefeated season. So I get it. In terms of whether stars matter or not, I think they matter more to guys who can't develop as well as some others. And what you're looking at at Alabama is that you got a coach who is pretty good at both. He's above average at both. Excellent recruiter, above average developer. His process is pretty much undefeated here in terms of producing. And you know what? Something we don't talk about enough when you talk about a system that develops, evolving. When Saban first got to Alabama, it was 3 yards in a cloud of dust with a game manager at quarterback.
Yep.
And now Lane Kiffin was probably one of the best hires he ever made, I think, in terms of changing up what he's doing. And then everybody, instead of letting the game pass him by, which is what happened under Gus, the rule changes and things kind of slowed his system down. And then we didn't see an evolution of that offense at all. We didn't see the evolution of that offense. And so the development couldn't happen because the system didn't fit the game as it became. And I want to see this because when Harsin came on, a lot of people were just off their rocker talking about how he had Bryan, what's called a multiple offense. And if I had one question for Harsin, I would ask him to just, in his own words, describe what is that going to mean at Auburn? Because the last few years we've been run, play action. Without a run game, this offense has not done well. Right. And we have not been able to develop a passing game that can ease some pressure off a mediocre run game. So if you don't have a dynamic athlete at quarterback and a good running back, we just haven't seen this offense really go. And it's going to be really interesting to see how he utilizes the talent that he has, because he doesn't have that talent that you're talking about right now to really go out and compete. So he's got to out-develop and he's got to out-coach other coaches in this league, at least for the first couple of years.
Yep. He's got a great running back.
Right.
He's got an offensive line that can run block, I think, fairly
They can
well.
run block.
Yeah, they can do that. They can do that.
He's got a gunslinger at quarterback who's a little inconsistent but can make plays and win games for you in the right situation. And he's got some talent at receiver that just needs to develop. and he's got some depth and some size and some ability at tight end. So I think they'll try to be smart about it. I think they will ball control a little bit, right? I mean, I think the defense is going to be pretty solid. I don't think you can win championships just run the ball and winning defense like you could 15 or 20 years ago.
No, you can't.
Right.
But I think you can help yourself a little bit if you're not a powerful offense and put yourself in position to win maybe more games than you would if you just goofed off and ran a bunch of screen plays and throw the ball deep when nobody's there and get your quarterback sacked 10 times a game or have him run around the backfield trying to escape pressure all the time. So.
John Manziel impression.
I really like that you described that as goofing off with the type of offense that we have been running for the last few years. I appreciate that characterization. Of that.
I do have a Gus theory though.
Okay. Yes, please.
If in 2014 he had stuck with the dual threat quarterback, the Nick Marshall plan, right? If he would have gone out there and recruited a couple of those guys every year and said, hey, we're going to try you at quarterback. If it doesn't work out, you can play cornerback, wide receiver, whatever. But we're going to bring in two superstar athletes that have played quarterback in high school and see what they can do. I think that offense would have still worked today. I think that was I just think that was the perfect match of a scheme and the right player. And when he went to quarterbacks like Sean White and Jeremy Johnson and
Tyler Queen,
all those
Jackson,
oh God, Lamar Jackson. I
think you just pissed off a good bit of people in our comment section bringing it up, Brian.
Yeah, and let me tell you, so in 2015, I was in Atlanta on a business trip, and I convinced Caesar to drive up, and we got tickets to that Louisville-Auburn game.
Yeah.
And Lamar Jackson didn't start that game, but I remember we were sitting by some Louisville fans, and he got in, and he didn't really do too much amazing, but his athleticism was off the charts. I remember turning to one of their fans and be like, who's that guy? He looks incredible. Like his talent ceiling is high. And they were like, oh, that's Lamar Jackson. Now, I don't even think they understood the impact of what they said at the time, but he did play for a guy that traditionally knew what to do with quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And which would be the other charge that this is the number one thing I think that the fans are going to be looking for here, because if you ask me, Gus bet his career at Auburn on whether he could turn Bo Nix into, a all SEC quarterback. It didn't happen, and I blame Gus.
I do too. I mean, he hasn't been good with quarterback. You look at all the places Auburn's quarterbacks have transferred to. I think one of the other beat writers put that on the Twitter the other day, and it's just like, I'm not trying to rip these schools, but it was mostly, group of 5 Division II type schools. And and what about Malik Willis? He goes to Liberty now, and he's an NFL prospect, right? He gets some better coaching, right, with a quarterback guru type, and now look where he is. So at the quarterback position, it can make a big difference, and I think Harsin and Mike Bobo combined can make Bo Nix a much better player.
Right. Let me ask you this question. Talking about staying on recruiting, we got a question here by Ed Darby. What do you think? What do you make of Harsin's approach? Harsin's recruiting system. He has a whole department that's dedicated to evaluating kids, roster management, and recruiting. What have been your thoughts so far in terms of his approach as opposed to Auburn's approach over the past 8 years?
I think it's the right way to do it. And he mentioned roster management, and that's exactly what it is now. It's not necessarily recruiting anymore because you got the transfer portal. And if you look what Auburn especially has done on defense, they've brought in a couple of defensive linemen, 3 defensive backs, and they added the Rowe kid, the JUCO signee late, really helped themselves in the secondary. And then I love Joko Willis's future here as a junior college signee, not necessarily transfer, but they did a great job. And I think you're going to see Auburn have to do that a lot in the coming years too. It's just a great way if you're a team like Auburn. Instead of going out there and signing a 3-star and taking a chance on him, why not go out and sign last year's 3-star or the 3-star from 2 years ago that's gone to a Power 5 school and has done really well. So he was one of those guys that actually was better than his rating, right? Why take the chance when you can get the not finished product, but the guy is actually pretty good. So I think you're going to see Auburn continue to do that. I think it's a wise move and the position Auburn is now. But back to recruiting, I think he's setting up a system that, if Auburn starts winning and they start recruiting better, that it can build on itself and get better and better. He's got a really great system in place of analysts and a great system when these kids come in to visit. Very organized. I think a lot of the kids talked about how most of their time was accounted for when they stepped on Auburn's campus. So I think he's got the right idea. We haven't seen it pay off for him yet, but I think it will.
Do you think that Harsin can win the state back from Alabama?
I mean, I'm just to be honest, no, I do not. Not with Nick Saban there,
Yeah.
I mean, Nick Saban doesn't even have to try hard anymore.
Right.
I mean, and not that he wouldn't, because obviously he is. He's a very driven man. But I mean, come to Alabama, win championships, go to the NFL. I've won this many championships. I've put this many people in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's all he has to do to every top player in the state is he'll win a lot of those battles.
Yeah, he's offering job placement in the NFL. Essentially, he's running a job placement program up there. It's kind of ridiculous. It's a job fair.
Yeah, and I could go on a tangent about development. The reason he's putting so many players in the NFL is because he's signing so many great players, right? If that player, like I said, goes to Townsend, he can still develop into an NFL player. But if you've got that at Alabama, if you've got 10 or 11 guys going to the NFL every year, whatever it is, 7 or 8, you're going to use that, and it works great. It's a great recruiting tool. So yes, Auburn can still win battles, with kids, especially kids that grow up Auburn fans in the state, or offer the playing time or whatever it is. And if they have success on the field and start winning, Saban's going to get older. He won't be there forever. Eventually, sure, they could, but not right now. That's not realistic, I don't think.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of his more impressive recruiting pitches is a Mac Jones. Now, granted, Mac Jones was surrounded by a lot of 4 and 5 stars that was blocking and catching passes.
Yep.
But still, it's still an impressive way to recruit a 5-star. Is look what we did with this kid. So it's rinse, wash, and repeat for Nick Saban. But let me ask you this: we got a question about Big Blue, and he wants to know: did we move Piggies too soon? Especially with likelihood we rely on 2 tight end sets?
That's a good question.
Actually, I think they moved him just in time because Jeremiah Wright was having a great spring. I think he was going to be the starting nose guard.
Yeah.
And when he went down with an injury, and it's probably going to keep him out the whole year, I would think, they needed some help there. And I think J.J. Piggies may not be ready day 1 or game 1, but I think by October, November, he could be helping Auburn on that field. And if you look at a kid that's 6 foot and 300 or so pounds, he's not an NFL tight end. He's maybe an NFL fullback, but there's not that many guys in the NFL that are playing fullback. But you put that size and that athleticism at defensive tackle, and he's a guy that maybe could have an 8 or 10 year career in the NFL if he continues to develop. And so I think it was the right move for him, and I think it's going to eventually be the right move for Auburn. Yep.
Well, listen, what we want to do right now, and we'll put a pin right there because we have a few more questions, Bryan, if you got time with us.
Heck yeah.
It's time for someone to actually win a T-shirt. Watch the film time. So let's do the necessary, Mike G. You see the hashtag. You see it. Let's get those 101. What we waiting to, Mike G?
I mean, we're almost. You know what? It's funny. A bunch of people jumped in late. I was trying to get 50%, but then we jumped up to almost 300 people live here tonight to see Bryan Matthews. Big draw. Big draw tonight, B. So we got 101 people entered. Hashtag get your weight up. I'm going to give you guys a few more seconds, and we're going to draw this so we can get back to more recruiting questions. So I see a couple more people jumping in there. Hashtag get your weight up. Make sure your spelling is right. And here we go. Who's going to be the winner tonight? Really, really pulling for Gabrielle.
I'm pulling for Corey, man. Come on, Corey.
Nino Brown.
I tried, man. I'm sorry.
Nino Brown. Are you with us, though, Nino? Nino, are you here? Shout out in the comments. Nino, you got to say something. There's a draw again button in the top right. I will hit it if you say nothing.
You got to give him a
Come on,
second.
Nino.
I'm seeing some names today I haven't seen in a minute.
Gabrielle, just send me your address. I'm just going to send you a T-shirt.
No, send Corey one. Corey, Gabrielle. Or we're just gonna keep punishing Corey.
Yeah. Oh man, Nino, are you here? update your app. I hope Nino left. Corey says, I get out of here. I talking about I'm Nino. Man, this is gonna be so sad. Listen, Nino got a phone call. I think he going. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna give Nino 15 more seconds here. Nino, drop us a comment. Let us know.
Ontario.
Oh no, Nino! I hate when this happens. Watch. At 5 minutes later, he's gonna be like, "I'm here," because he was running behind. All right, here we go. I'm drawing again. Who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? No, Nino. Oh, you guys are killing me tonight. Nino again? What? How is that possible?
It's red.
That's amazing.
You know,
That is
what are the
amazing.
chances of that?
If Nino don't
I think we
claim
gotta give him a
this,
shirt now, man. Let's just.
if
Nino,
Nino
twice.
don't claim
I'm
this,
sorry, you can't win twice here. Nothing. I don't care. If you're not. Can we just send him a shirt, please?
if Nino don't hop on this show,
Oh my God. What
How is that even
chances of
possible?
that? I don't even know. That's never happened.
How is that?
War report first. Okay, you know what? We're gonna send Nino a shirt, but I'm gonna draw a gift for somebody who's here. How about that? Nino, you're getting one on me tonight.
You can't. Yeah, please. He's got to get one shirt.
Wow, that was pretty incredible. It better not be Nino. I'm gonna lose my Felix Gonzalez. I know
There we
Felix
go.
is in here. Felix, where are you, buddy? I thought I saw you.
There you go.
He posted at 901, so
Yeah.
got us
Yeah.
over here.
Yeah,
he's in here.
yeah, he's good.
Oh,
Felix.
man, that's cool.
Felix, those are the rules. Felix, come on. What about Nino? Yes, come on, Felix. I know you didn't leave.
Nah, he didn't leave. He's
He
just
didn't
on-
leave. All right, yeah, I got Felix's address too. He's here.
Oh man.
Felix has not won.
I
Has
think
he
you.
won?
I think you sent him something before.
Yeah, I
though.
sent him something, but I don't know if he.
Yeah,
won it.
you sent him something. He didn't win it.
Yeah, he didn't win it. He didn't win it live on stream. So congratulations,
promised
Felix. Yeah. I mean, Felix is here. My name is Felix. Okay, all right. So let's move on. Let's get back to these questions. Nino lightning struck twice. Nino hit the lottery twice in one night. We got to check the software, see what's going on there.
So, guys, continue to and because I mean, again, we got almost 300 people in here. These comments are flowing. So if you post some more questions for us, man. We can continue to utilize Bryan Matthews while we still got him. So definitely send those questions in. There's been of course, with the whole NIL, we kind of talked about it, and you wrote an article early in this week saying that NCAA is still intact, right? This was the big myth that NIL was going to be the undoing of college football. People are still excited about the sport. People are still looking forward to the upcoming season. No one has had their wrist slapped, so it's all is fair right now. But is it okay to be a bit concerned about certain issues that the new challenges that NIL will present in terms of players potentially losing focus? We're seeing what some of these deals these kids are making. Of course, we talked about Masterpiece son Hersey Miller at Tennessee State signing his deal, but he comes from a pretty good family. But you want to have some of these kids get some deals, and they may not have the structure in place. They may not have the foundation behind them to keep them level-headed. What kind of issues or concerns you could see coming along with NIL that coaches perhaps may not have had to deal with in the past?
Well, number one is compliance. The coaches don't really have any say-so in what these kids do. It basically goes through their representative or their parents or through them. So, what if they make a deal with somebody they shouldn't have made a deal with, or if they make a bad deal? Or if they make a deal that for some way puts them ineligible? I think that's all things that coaches are going to be concerned about, especially as, we sort of wade through the beginnings of this, where it's not really set in stone what is going to be allowed and what's not going to be allowed, and what's going to change here in the next 2 or 3 years. So I think early on, there are going to be some things that crop up, or there are going to be some issues with it. But and I'm sure some things are going to surprise me, right? So I'm sort of downplaying a little bit, and maybe I'm wrong about maybe there will be some some hanky panky going on, right?
Right.
Right.
But I mean, the biggest surprise for me, I guess, for starters, is just how much money. First of all, some of these, not necessarily girls, but they are girls. Are the two twins from Fresno State, and they're going to make between $1 and $3 million because they have so many TikTok followers and Instagram followers, and they're talking about the gymnast from LSU being worth around $3 million per year because of all her followers. I mean, that to me is amazing. I can remember when Twitter came out, and I was thinking, I don't know if I want to really get on Twitter. Social media, who cares? Yeah.
Right. It's a
Right.
must now. I think that one of the things that coaches are going to have to deal with is that you have athletes, and an athlete's life is class, practice, study hall, and there's very little time. Now what you're doing for some athletes is you're throwing sponsorship obligations on top of that.
That's right.
Right.
That's a good point.
They're becoming small business owners.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. They're forming LLCs, and they've got this new thing that they have to manage. And what you're going to see from Harsin, mark my words, is that he's not going to let any off the field thing that he doesn't have control over become a distraction on the field. So if you are capitalizing from NIL, I commend you. I'm all about it.
Right.
But you just have to remember what comes first, because it's your talent that's made the opportunity for you. And if you are talentless, or you are not, or you get benched, your name is worth a whole lot less.
Yep.
Right.
And somebody mentioned Suni Lee on the chat. Yeah, she's going to make a lot of money. The future Auburn gymnast, Olympic gymnast this summer. So,
Yeah.
She's going to be one.
Yeah. Coaches are going to have to help guide athletes through this process where we want you to get what you deserve, but you still have an obligation to the team. And I really think this presents pro style problems at the collegiate level.
Yep. I agree that's you got the coach wanting to be in control, but he technically has no control over all this stuff. So that is going to cause some clashes, so to speak. That's a really good point. That's something I need to think about myself a little bit more, because especially a guy like Harsin, that could certainly affect his relationship with certain players, or playing time, or how things go throughout the season.
Yeah.
What you got, B?
Well, I wanted to ask about Holden. Help me say his last name right. Is it Grenier? Grenier? I
don't know.
Holden G.
He's our QB in the 22 class. He hit the Elite 11 camp, and I mean, he got to go to the Elite 11 camp. So that's the first in a while, actually. I think Sean White was the last QB we got that went there, and he won it, which is wild considering a lot of things. But he has been recruiting for us hard, and he seems to be that I'm in the pocket, I'm making throws, I'm going to be accurate QB. Is this pretty much the blueprint for what Harsin wants at QB? Is Demetric Davis going to be kind of like the outlier from the last regime? And are we just going to be going for pocket passing, big, tall guys from here on out at QB?
Well, they were finalist or one of the final 2 or 3 for the kid that ended up committed to Georgia, who's a big-time dual threat quarterback. So I don't think necessarily that Holden is going to be just a pocket passer, the same blueprint for every quarterback they sign. I just think it's a matter of them putting evaluations on kids and ranking them and taking the best guy they can get. And I think that was Holden. I think he was probably their number 2 or 3 guy. So I think they're really pleased with that overall. If you look at some of the top quarterbacks that signed with the Georgias, the Clemsons, the Alabamas, and such around the Southeast. And I think, as far as his Elite 11 performance, I think it was just a little inconsistent. But I also think, they have a big group of kids out there, and it seems like the focus is usually on the top guys. And some of the other guys maybe don't get enough attention or enough, opportunities to really move up and show what they can do. I'm not making excuses for him, but I think in his case, he is a pocket passer. He is a guy that has a strong arm, and he is a guy that's going to succeed if he can be really accurate, consistent, and smart, and make good decisions. That type of guy. I think that's how they see him, and we'll see. And I wouldn't rule out Demetric Davis. I love that kid.
Yeah,
great attitude. Sure, he's undersized, but he's got a pretty strong arm. He made that one nice throw in the 8A game.
Yeah,
I don't remember who it was to. Yeah.
It was the Malcolm Johnson Jr.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I caught it over his shoulder, if I'm not mistaken. I think. But I think he's a playmaker. And I think in the spring, he's just learning things and maybe holding back a little bit because he wasn't playing. He was thinking a lot.
Right.
But I think by the time he gets through summer and gets into, 2-a-days, no, not 2 days anymore, but preseason practice, he'll be able to compete more, and just go out there and play ball like he knows how to do. I mean, he's a winner too. He won 2 state championships, and I think they lost in the semifinals or finals his senior year against a really good team. I mean, I just love that kid.
All right. Before we close out, Bryan, I do want to address a few questions that have come through. Rapid fire, your thoughts. What are your thoughts on Drew Bobo? Where is he leaning?
I think coming off of his visit to Auburn was the team to beat. I think he was really, really pleased to earn that offer from Auburn. He obviously has a long time relationship with Will Friend, who's been with Mike Bobo a lot. So I think it's a great fit. He's listed as a tackle. I think on Rivals, he's probably a guard, but I think he's a guy that redshirts and it probably plays 2 or 3 years. So he's definitely a guy I'm pretty high on, and a guy I think Auburn's in pretty good shape for in the future.
Who's your 2021 defensive breakout player?
Breakout player. It's got to be a defensive lineman, right? Because the secondary seems pretty set with all the new kids coming in. Linebacker is definitely set. I'm going to go out on a little bit of limb and say Derek Hall, maybe, or Chandler Wooten. Chandler Wooten was probably the biggest surprise to me in the spring because, he set out a year. When I watched him play before, I thought he maybe was a step slow. Just my opinion at the time. But then I watched him in the spring, and he's running all over the place. He's making plays. And then we hear through the staff that he had a great spring. So he's a guy that I think is going to play a lot more, maybe be an impact player, maybe put him on the edge a little bit. So he's a guy to watch that people aren't really talking about. And I think Derek Hall, when you just see him on the football field, he just looks like a football player. So it's his 3rd year now. Auburn desperately needs an edge rusher, right? And I just got a feeling he's going to be the man. We'll see.
I'm curious to see what Romello. He looked pretty impressive too in the spring game, Romello Heights. So I'll be excited to see any type of guys coming off the edge. We haven't had that in a long time, so it's long overdue. One last question.
Height got injured coming out of the spring.
He got injured.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So one last question. Any commits you think will go up a full star before the cycle is over?
Wait, say that again. Any commits what?
Any commits that it's only 5. So are there any commits that we have that could potentially move up a star?
Oh, okay. Well, it's good to see Mike already a 4-star because I think that's, at least what he is for sure. Trying to think here. I don't think we have the kicker even
he's not
ranked yet. So I think he'll, usually the top kicker in the country might get a 4-star. But a lot of times they get no higher than 3 stars. If I looked at the class, I think both Powell Gordon, especially, even though he's probably not going to get a bump, I think he's a really underrated kid. He's a football player. He's going to be, he'll probably be a middle linebacker, but he could potentially be an edge guy. I really think that highly of his athletic ability and his playmaking ability. And then Jarrell Stinson is so fast. The only issue with him is he's about 5'10". So it's hard to see him, making a big jump up the rankings unless he has just a crazy senior season. But he certainly has the ability to play above a 3-star rating just because of his speed and because he can impact special teams too, and not just be a really good cornerback.
Well, guys, we appreciate you with your questions. Of course, we gotta get out of here due to time constraints. But we appreciate you guys jumping on and hanging out with us. Thanks again to you, Bryan, for taking time to hang out with us and answer some questions and hang out with the War Report fam. So before we get out of here, man, we got a few announcements. Mike G, talk to the people.
Listen, become an insider for $5.99. That will automatically enter you into our raffle for tickets for the Akron game, first game of the season. So you can go witness the dawn of the Bryan Harsin era at Auburn in Jordan Hare on the War Report. So, insiders are automatically entered. If you go to our GoFundMe and make a donation between now and Sunday, you will get another entry into that raffle. So we're going to have some more instructions for how you can get more entries if you are not an insider or supporter. But if you're just a regular sub and you like watching us, you'll have a chance to get at least 5 entries in there. So we want you guys to have a chance to win this. Go to our GoFundMe, help us help the Lee County Humane Society, save an animal's life. And our merch store is live. You can get your Watch the Film t-shirts for the season in our merch store. This link is in the About section of our YouTube channel as well. I want to thank everybody for coming. Bryan, thanks for being with us tonight, man.
Sure, man.
And I appreciate it. I really enjoyed it. It was a great first time here. I hope y'all have me back sometime in the future.
Most definitely.
Oh, don't worry. Don't worry about that. It's coming. All right. Well, we appreciate you guys for hanging out with us. Listen, before you guys log off, I see some of you guys jumping off already. If you haven't already, please be sure to share this video using hashtag Get Your Weight Up. Like and subscribe to us on the YouTube channel. If you haven't already, what in the world are you doing? You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at The War Report. We're actually on TikTok at TW Report. That's it for now, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.